My goodness, as we assembled our panel here. Jeannie Shanzano's back with us. You better believe, Democratic analyst, Bloomberg Politics contributor, senior democracy fellow with the Center for the Study of the Presidency and Congress. And Chapin Fay is with us, Republican strategist, managing director at Actum. Great to see both of you, and thanks for joining. Chapin, what do you think about the optics here? I don't know if this thing's going to go public or not, but I mean, I keep hearing nobody cares. I've got a CBS Yougov poll today says 28% of likely voters actually will consider Donald Trump's conviction to be a major factor in their vote. But just the sort of demeaning optics of sitting for an interview with a probation officer, does it matter?
I think it matters a little bit, like that poll indicates. You know, I think a lot of this stuff is baked in. You know, we've been dealing with, Trump supporters and voters have been dealing with these allegations and investigations for years now. We just went through a trial, a very public trial, where he was convicted. He's now a convicted felon, and now he has to go maybe meet with a probation officer. I don't know. I think they're gonna still coalesce around him. I think it's already baked in, and again, you're fighting over sort of independent voters who still sort of fall down partisan lines if they're leaners, right? If you're thinking about voting for President Trump, you don't care about the conviction, and you see this as a political persecution witch hunt. If you're leaning Joe Biden, it matters a great deal to you that his opponent is a convicted felon. So I think it will be demeaning, but I don't know 1-2% matter.
Well, Jeannie, maybe I'm part of the problem here. Because I'm putting these both together into the same conversation. Donald Trump, former president of the United States, running for a second term, convicted felon, meeting with his probation officer, versus Hunter Biden, son of Joe Biden, not running for anything, facing gun charges in this case. Should they be in the same breath?
No, you're never part of the problem, Joe Matthew, just part of the solution. So, they are part of the, they are part of the same conversation because, anytime a relative of the sitting president is, being investigated or in a trial like Hunter is, it's big news. Obviously, the same goes for somebody who's leading his party, the presumptive nominee. Certainly, we all know Hunter Biden is not on the ballot. I think one of the fascinating things I've witnessed on the Hunter Biden end is Donald Trump's reaction to it and the Republicans' reaction to it. The rhetoric has changed. We heard Donald Trump on Fox News a few days ago being empathetic to the situation Hunter Biden finds himself in as an addict. Talking about his own brother's problems with alcoholism. You don't hear the Republicans talking as much negatively about Hunter Biden as you did. So I think they are cognizant of the fact that so many Americans struggle with addiction that they have not been attacking him in the way they were just a few months ago. Could that change? Absolutely. But I think Democrats still trying to make hay out of Donald Trump's conviction. And we see the CBS poll. Around the edges, it has some impact. The 28% you talked about, it gins up the base for Joe Biden. But the reality is people care most about the bread and butter issues, and that's what Joe Biden needs to focus on.
Interesting rhetoric, as always, from Donald Trump in Las Vegas over the weekend. Chapin, we can talk about his references to the January 6 rioters as warriors. We can talk about a lot of the things he said about a rigged election and the border, but I'm curious your thoughts on his decision to show up in Las Vegas and propose eliminating taxes on tips, speaking, of course, to masses of people who work in the hospitality industry in Nevada, and it resonated with the crowd. Smart politics?
Of course. I mean, anytime you're talking about putting more money in people's pockets, it's smart politics. That's especially when it aligns with, for the previous conversation, the main issues that people care about, right? A few people care about, a few percentage points care about the conviction and Trump. And of course, a lot of this, the Democrats are trying to make this campaign a referendum on Trump.
If this were Joe Biden, though, you'd call it an election year stunt, wouldn't you?
Maybe. I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, this is something I think we'd be surprised if someone like Joe Biden offered this because it's, the left and Democrats are not usually in the habit of putting money back in people's pockets by lowering taxes. But again, if President Biden said he was going to lower taxes on hospitality workers, I would support that. I may call it an election year stunt, but I certainly would support the policy.
They're not mutually exclusive.
And by the way, the last exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last I'll say is everything that happens on both sides. You'll see from a couple months ago through election day is going to be declared a stunt anyway.
Well, that's the truth, and I don't know if any of that even matters, Jeannie, but, people were calling just forgiving student loans an election year stunt. They've called the president's border executive action an election year stunt. Even if they agree with the policy, it's interesting here. Does Donald Trump have something to run on?
It is something. I mean, we are going to be debating taxes 2024, 2025 in particular in Washington, D.C. So this is a policy that, could find its way into the conversation. And I think there's going to be some pushback on it, certainly. But this is the reality of election year politicking. And at this point, I'm thinking most Americans who want to break on anything should consider moving to these 6 or 7 swing states. Because if you're living outside of those, you're not going to get much action on any of this, but move there and you get all of these kinds of things dangling. So, this is the reality of our election system, which probably needs to be reconsidered, but this is where we are today.
Philly, Wisconsin, Michigan, money falling from the skies. It does make us think, though, of this idea of, the union vote being up for grabs in this election. Jeannie and Chapin, it's something that we're not done talking about here, even as Joe Biden calls himself the most union-friendly president in American history. We've seen Donald Trump do very well with the rank and file. Even as the UAW endorses Joe Biden, this is just something that keeps turning around. And we're going to have a lot more with our panel here coming up. Jeannie Sheehan Zaino, Bloomberg Politics contributor, Democratic analyst, along with Chapin Fay, Republican strategist, with us from Actum today, and a lot more to cover. I've got good news for you. Kaylee Lyons is back with us. She'll be here for hour 2, and a special conversation with Erin Covey. We've been looking forward to this as well. With our eyes on the campaign trail, the new numbers out today, and another primary day tomorrow. One thing we haven't mentioned is Donald Trump's endorsement in the Nevada Senate race. Erin Covey from the Cook Political Report joins the conversation ahead with our next hour. We'll reassemble our panel, and Jonathan Panikoff will join us from the Atlantic Council with the latest on a potential ceasefire in Israel. We're just getting started on the fastest show in politics. I'm Joe Matthew.